Hi, Henrik here, and today I'm in Lumpini Park. Can't lie, I'm pretty excited because for the past 2 months all the parks in Bangkok and all around Thailand have been shut because of COVID. While I am excited, I'm also a little bit nervous, I can't lie, because while the parks have been closed, you've had massive shopping malls have been left open, malls that thousands of people go through every day, fondling all the goods, touching stuff. And in the meantime, parks have been closed, which can only lead me to believe one thing: parks are very dangerous. This is obviously the kind of place that spreads disease. I don't know what it is. It could be the trees, could be all the green grass, all the fresh air. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to keep quite wary today. Why the change of scenery, you might be asking? Did I get too scared of the park?
No.
What actually happened was at the end of that last clip, a park guard came over and very officiously told me that there was no filming in the park. That's right, no filming in the park, which I knew was rubbish. I recognised that he was some sort of congenital idiot and tried very politely to argue the point with him that in fact you can film in the park, and I've seen many people doing that, but he was having none of it. He was getting more and more angry with me and actually threatened to call the police. When you threaten with the police over filming, it didn't really seem worth it, so I've decided to come back to the apartment block and finish my 10 things that I've learned about Thailand video from here. Now, on my way out of the park, I was 99.9% sure that I was in the right, but I did check on the gates where they've got a big long list of things that you can't do in the park, and amongst them were drink alcohol, ride a motorbike, have sex, which you may or may not agree with, but that was on the list. What was missing though was filming. Anyway, what it has done is made me alter my list slightly of things I'm going to talk about, so let's jump into it and go with number 1. What do you mean I can't call it that? Whatever. So, in honour of that park guard, I've titled my number 1 thing, The Nonsense. I think this covers a wide gamut of things that you might come across in Thailand. This is a very authoritarian country. They love a good rule and they love enforcing it, no matter how arbitrary it might be. Like that park guard with his completely made up rule, to be fair, but he still loved enforcing it. Going back to the parks being shut, so during the whole COVID outbreak, the government in their wisdom decided to shut down parks, these open air areas. They decided to shut down things like swimming pools, which if you've ever lived in Thailand, are so little used as to be almost empty most of the time anyway. The fact that national parks were shut. Now, if you think a park like Lumpini is pretty big, national parks can be thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of square kilometres in size. Yet again, these were deemed too dangerous to keep open due to COVID. The rules here can feel a bit arbitrary, I think, and a lot of people have mentioned during this COVID outbreak, they've compared the government's reaction to COVID to the way they treat road deaths. And road deaths in Thailand are pretty serious. There's something like 56 people a day die every day on the roads out here. So that's about 20,000 people a year. If you compare that to the amount of people who've died from COVID since the beginning of the outbreak, it's something like 1,700. So there's a huge disparity. And on the one hand, they're treating COVID very seriously. But on the other hand, they have laws that say that you have to wear a crash helmet on your motorbike. And you will very often see people riding without them. And the police won't stop them. They will see 4 or 5 people crammed onto a motorbike, underage drivers. These are not serious infractions for whatever reason. So this is part of why I titled this section The Nonsense. It just doesn't really stack up. That being said, I'm sure lots of countries have their own versions of this, their own things that don't make sense, but these are things that can get a little bit annoying out here, especially when some rules are enforced with such vigour, even if, like that park guard, you've made up the rule yourself. Oh, hello. So, number 2 is about pants. It is actually illegal to leave the house in Thailand without wearing your pants. Not something that you're likely to get caught for. In the 9 months that I've lived in Thailand, I've only had a pants check by the police twice, so very unlikely, but you never know. Really, I think it's just more a good rule for life, isn't it? If you're going out, wear your pants. bureaucracy and paperwork. The Thais absolutely love this stuff. So to give you one example from my own experience, we actually shipped our boxes over from Jordan, and one happy day I got a phone call to say that they'd arrived and I could come pick them up. Now I knew this wasn't going to be an easy task, so I hired a local Thai to come with and act as translator. The first thing that my Thai friend did when we got there was hire another Thai who worked in the airport to be our guide for the day. And we paid him 4,000 baht, I believe, and it was the best 4,000 baht I've ever spent, because without that man, I would still be there to this day, boxless and broken. It was ridiculously difficult. We must have visited at least 15 different offices on multiple occasions. I actually took buses from one side of the airport to the other and back again, and constantly carrying bits of paper from one office to the next, swapping them for another bit of paperwork, paying some money. The fact that it took 7 hours with a guide who jumped us to the front of many a queue tells me that without him I'd have been there double the length of time. Well, in all honesty, I'd have never got it done. This is a modern country. They have computers, they have the internet. I've seen it, I've used it, but for whatever reason, they much prefer a bit of paper. The why. Now this is the standard greeting here in Thailand. We Westerners who are more tactile hug and kiss, but for Thais, even a handshake can seem like too much physical contact. So instead, they why. To my understanding, there are 3 levels of why. I'll only attempt to demonstrate the most basic one to you. If you're interested, there's plenty of information online that you can check out. We bring our elbows into our sides and our palms together, and then we bow our head down until our chin touches our thumbs. And that's it, as I understand it. Now where it gets more complicated is depending on the level of seniority of the person you're speaking to. If you're lower down the pecking order, you should be the one to initiate the why at the appropriate level. Now the person returning it, who is above you in seniority, age, profession, whatever it may be, they should return a lower level of why. And in fact, if they're high up enough above you, they needn't return the greeting to you at all. Now this can all be a bit confusing to us Westerners, and you might be worried that you're going to get it wrong. And fact is that you probably will, but realistically you shouldn't worry, because a Thai will look at you and obviously recognise you for a Westerner. They know that you can't take a full strength Thai curry, just in the same way that they know that you probably can't tell the difference between a ladyboy and a lady. And in exactly the same way, they know that you don't understand the full intricacies of the why yet. What's my advice to you? Well, I think just treat it the same as the whole ladyboy-lady conundrum and just give it a go. If you get it wrong, the Thais won't judge you for it. Right, so number 5 on the list is don't throw things. Now the reason for this, you see that's why you don't throw things. So the reason that you shouldn't throw stuff in Thailand, apart from the obvious, is that it's actually considered very rude out here. If you're in a store, for example, you should pass the money over politely. You shouldn't just throw it on the counter. If you ever had teachers in school that just used to throw the books out to you, that used to be quite normal when I was a student. But here, if you did that as a teacher, that would be, again, considered very, very impolite. So, nice and easy rule, just don't throw things. Apart from things that are meant to be thrown, like frisbees. Reason for this is